We at Gender Safe, supporting all for equality, would like to welcome you to our third annual Transgender Day of Remembrance Candlelight Vigil. I'm Christina and my pronouns are she, her. I am one of the co-facilitators here at Gender Safe. Gender Safe is a support group located in Holland, Michigan for the transgender and gender diverse community, their family, friends, and allies. It is part of our mission to reach out to the broader community to educate and advocate. Transgender Day of Remembrance is observed annually on November 20 as a day to memorialize those who have been brutally murdered as a result of anti-transgender discrimination. The goal is to draw attention to the continued violence endured by the transgender and gender diverse community. This year, we have already lost at least 33 trans folks, primarily women of color, to anti-transgender violence. We say at least because very often these murders go unreported. Since the Human Rights Campaign began tracking this data in the US in 2013, they have never seen such a high number of lives lost at this point in the year. As we honor those lovely people, please remember that just like you, they were partners, family members, friends, neighbors. They worked and played, laughed and cried, and were just trying to make it in this world like all of us. They did not deserve to have their lives tragically come to an early end by someone else's hate. These lives may be gone, but we memorialize them now to remember them forever.
Nikki Kuhnhausen. Nikki, a 17-year-old transgender young woman, was killed by strangulation sometime after her disappearance from Vancouver, Washington in June 2019. Her remains weren't discovered until December. Nikki was staying with a friend the night of her disappearance and had left to meet a man who strangled her after learning she was transgender. Nikki enjoyed sharing videos of her singing and dancing, as well as entertaining her friends by posting memes. Her loved ones, in mourning her passing, shared, quote, "You, my dear, didn't deserve this. Rest with God now." Yahira Nesby. Yahira, a 33-year-old black transgender woman, was fatally shot in Brooklyn, New York on December 19. According to detectives, the victim was shot by her boyfriend in her chest and leg. Yahira, from Charlotte, North Carolina, was a loved member of the New York ball scene. She was a religious woman who shared words of faith on her social media. Yahira's friends and family remembered her as, quote, "a good spirit," and said every time she was around, she put a smile on their faces. Dustin Parker. Dustin, a 25-year-old transgender man, was fatally shot in McAlester, Oklahoma early on New Year's Day. He was killed while working as a taxi cab driver and was known to be an amazing husband and father. His employers remembered him as, quote, "a steadfast friend, generous to a fault. He loved fiercely, worked tirelessly, and took on life with so much hope and enthusiasm that his presence brightened all of our lives." Dustin was a founding member of his local LGBTQ organization. Nulisa Alexa Luciano Ruiz. Alexa, a 28-year-old transgender woman, was fatally shot in Toa Baja, Puerto Rico on February 24. She appeared to have been targeted by her killers after a social media post claimed a homeless transgender woman was using the women's restroom. Alexa's attackers followed her in a car, filmed the brutal killing, and posted it online. Alexa was remembered as being both humble and noble. Yampi Mendez Arroco. Yampi, a 19-year-old transgender man, was fatally shot in his face and upper back while in Moca, Puerto Rico on March 5. He was allegedly assaulted 5 hours prior to his death, and his mother had contacted the police in response to that assault. Yampi's body was later found near a park that evening. He was known to share his love of basketball and the NBA, particularly the Miami Heat. His biography line on social media stated, "Humility prevails." Monica Diamond. Monica, a 34-year-old black transgender woman, was fatally shot in Charlotte, North Carolina on March 18. After experiencing shortness of breath and being placed in an ambulance, she was shot several times. Monica was the co-owner of an event promotion company and co-CEO of the International Mother of the Year pageantry system, which honors LGBTQIA+ mothers. She was a loving friend, a chosen mother to countless others, and did not deserve to have her life taken from her. Lexi Ebony Sutton. Lexi, a 33-year-old transgender woman, was fatally stabbed in Harlem, New York on March 28. After being stabbed at work in Harlem River Park, Lexi was taken to a nearby hospital where she was pronounced dead. Her friend said she, quote, really looked up to her because of her tolerance and respect. Lexi had a beautiful heart. She was very gifted. Lexi loved poetry, makeup, and fashion. Johanna Metzger. Johanna, a 25-year-old transgender woman, was fatally stabbed in Baltimore, Maryland on April 11. She was stabbed while staying at a Baltimore rehabilitation center. Johanna was a college graduate from Pennsylvania. Her mother shared that Johanna was known for her love of music and taught herself to play multiple instruments.
To be patient, to be kind, it is a giving of the peace in your mind. To a stranger, to a friend, to give in such a way that has no end. We are love, we are one, we are treat each other when the day is done. We are peace, we are one, we are how we treat each other and nothing more. To be bold, to be brave, it is a thinking that the heart can still be saved. Can conquer with the dangers and the anger and the hanging on to it. We are love, we are one, we are how we treat each other when the day is done. We are peace, we are one, we are how we treat each other. Nothing more. are how we treat each other when the day is done. We are peace, we are war. We are how we treat each other, nothing more. We are how we treat each other, nothing more. We are how we treat each other.
Penelope Diaz Ramirez. Penelope, a 31-year-old transgender woman, was found beaten and hanged at the Bayamun Correctional Complex, a men's prison in Puerto Rico, on April 13. Penelope did not deserve to die. Transgender people do not deserve to die. Every single advocate, ally, elected official, and community member must stand up in the light of these horrific news and say no more. What we are doing is not enough, said Tori Cooper of the Human Rights Campaign. Serena Angelique Vasquez Ramos. Serena, a 32-year-old transgender woman, was fatally shot and burned inside of a car in Umaca, Puerto Rico on April 21. She was killed alongside her friend, Layla Polichas Sanchez, after two men found out they were transgender, a horrific hate crime. Serena was on vacation and due to return home within days to her much-loved dog and cats in Queens, New York. Loved ones are mourning her death, calling Serena full of life, a happy person, and a sincere friend. Layla Sanchez. Layla was fatally shot and burned inside of her mother's car in Umaca, Puerto Rico on April 21. Layla, who had recently moved to the island, was killed alongside of her friend, Serena Angelique Velasquez Ramos. The two men were charged with their deaths under federal hate crimes. Layla's mother shared that her daughter was born that way. She was not born a man. She was a girl the whole time, saying, "They took my life because they are not going to bring her back." Nina Pop. Nina, a 28-year-old black transgender woman, was found fatally stabbed in her apartment in Sykeston, Missouri on May 3. The week before her death, Nina shared a photo of herself with her siblings and talked about her home and family. A family left mourning their sister who did not deserve to die. Nina's family and friends are mourning their loss, sharing that everyone loved her. She was always happy, her friend said. Helly J. O'Regan. Helly, a 20-year-old transgender woman, was fatally stabbed in San Antonio, Texas on May 6. She was killed at the barbershop she worked at as she helped to prepare to reopen after being closed due to the pandemic. Helly was proud of her trans identity and often spoke out against injustice, including the LGBTQ equality. "Every time I saw her, she smiled," said her friend. "Being trans is so hard, and her life was hard, but she lived it like it was the best day of her life every day." Tony McDade. Tony, a 38-year-old black transgender man, was fatally shot by police in Tallahassee, Florida on May 27. Conflicting details surround his death. Tony's family and friends shared how he was an energetic, giving person with a big heart and noted that he was nicknamed Tony the Tiger. "You have such a big heart. Just your energy would lift my spirits," said a friend. Dominique Remy Fells. Dominique, a 27-year-old black transgender woman, was killed in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania on June 9. She was found dead on the riverbank with serious injuries to her head and face. Dominique's legs had been severed. A friend of hers shared, "Dom was a unique and beautiful soul who I am lucky to have known personally. I am beside myself right now. We need to fight. We need to do more. We will get justice." Rhea Milton. Rhea, a 25-year-old black transgender woman, was fatally shot in Liberty Township, Ohio on June 9. 3 people have been accused of luring her to a park where she was horrifically ambushed. Rhea was known for her resilience and optimism. She worked as a home health aide and studied at the University of Cincinnati. Rhea was a loving sister and aunt, often posting photos of her family. A friend called her an amazing person who was loved by everyone.
Good evening. My name's Emery, and I'm transmasculine non-binary, which means that I don't consider myself entirely male or entirely female, but I prefer to present myself in a more masculine way. I didn't always know I was trans, but even as a kid, my family and I knew there was something a little different about me. I was mostly a tomboy. I hated the color pink and resisted my mom's efforts to get me into dresses and makeup, but I also loved dancing ballet and wearing jewelry. I grew up in Alabama, and my dad was a Baptist minister, so the household I grew up in was very religious and very conservative. It wasn't until college that I even knew trans people existed. And even though I met other trans people in college, I still didn't realize then that I was trans. After I graduated undergrad, I got married, and it was through supporting my wife, who came out to me around our first anniversary, that I realized I was trans. As I helped her cope with gender dysphoria and explore her gender identity and expression, I realized that the trans identity applied to me too. In 2017, I moved here to Grand Rapids to start my PhD, and it was the Own Your Gender group at Grand Rapids Pride Center that gave me the courage to start coming out and transitioning on my own. In September of this year, it was my 2-year anniversary of being on testosterone, and as of April of 2019, my name and legal gender marker were updated, although my birth certificate changes are still in progress because there are a lot of loopholes to meet in Alabama. And I continue to pursue medical and surgical steps towards my transition. The hardest part of this process has been my family's decision to effectively disown me when I came out. This is partly based on their religious beliefs and the mistaken interpretation that transitioning is somehow acting against God. But I also believe that their active discouragement of my transition comes out of genuine concern, and their failure to understand, probably from never having seen an experience, that you can be safe and happy and healthy existing in the world as a transgender person. So because they told me that I'm not welcome at home unless I continue to present as female and use my dead name, I haven't seen them in over 3 years. But I stay in contact with the hope that things will improve and they'll come to understand in time. But things aren't all bad. the best part has been the amazing new confidence and happiness, a level I didn't even know that I could reach before. In May, after my top surgery, I was looking in the mirror after a shower and I looked at my newly grown beard and my newly flattened chest, and I actually felt at home and comfortable in my body for the first time. My coworkers around me continually remark how happy I seem all the time. So I continue to move forward with the support of all the friends and new family that I've made here, including Out on the Lakeshore and the Gender Safe group in Holland, the Grand Rapids Pride Center Own Your Gender group, and some amazing new friends that I've met along the way that support me and help me celebrate. So thank you for listening to my story and being here tonight to help us remember those transgender individuals who we've lost this year simply because they were being who they are.
Jane Thompson. Jane, a 33-year-old transgender woman, was fatally shot in Mesa County, Colorado on May 9. She was killed by a police officer during what appears to have been a mental health crisis. Tori Cooper of the Human Rights Campaign noted, quote, "It is clear that Jane was in crisis when she was approached by Colorado State Patrol. When members of the community need help, the expectation is to protect and serve, and not to be killed." Selena Reyes Hernandez. Selena, a 37-year-old transgender woman, was fatally shot in Chicago, Illinois on May 31. Selena was shot several times inside her home after telling her assailant that she was transgender. Quote, "We have lost a beloved member of our trans family because of hate. Hate that has corrupted our country's soul and that shatters lives and futures every day," said Tori Cooper of the Human Rights Campaign. Brian Egypt Powers. Brian, a 43-year-old black transgender person, was fatally shot in his hometown of Akron, Ohio on June 13. Brian identified as transgender, but continued to use he/him pronouns and his birth name. As a child, Brian dreamed of becoming a backup dancer for Janet Jackson or Paula Abdul. He worked at a local catering company and is remembered for wearing long, colorful braids, unicorn braids, as Brian called them. Brayla Stone. Brayla, a 17-year-old black transgender young woman, was found fatally shot in a car in Little Rock, Arkansas on June 25. Tori Cooper of the Human Rights Campaign said, quote, "Brayla Stone was a child just beginning to live her life, a child of trans experience, a black girl, a person who had hopes and dreams, plans and community." Mercy Mack. Mercy, a 22-year-old black transgender woman, was found fatally shot in Dallas, Texas on June 30. Mercy enjoyed baking cookies at home and was excited to return to her job at a local restaurant, which had been closed due to COVID-19. Her loved ones have shared what a beautiful friend Mercy was. Family and friends described her as an upbeat person who doted on her nieces and nephews. Shaki Peters. Shaki, a 32-year-old black transgender woman, was found fatally shot near a road in Amite City, Louisiana on July 1. She was known by her friends to be a very independent person and very loyal to her friends. A friend shared, quote, "She was full of laughter and an abundance of life. Shaki would provide moments of joy and laughter that sustained us." Bree Black. Bree, a 27-year-old black transgender woman was fatally shot in Pompano Beach, Florida on July 3. Dozens of people had gathered in Pompano Beach to honor her a couple of days after her death. Quote, "These killings are being fueled by the deadly combination of racism and transphobia, and they must cease," said Tori Cooper of the Human Rights Campaign. Summer Taylor. Summer, a 24-year-old non-binary person, was killed by a car in Seattle, Washington on July 4. They died after being hit by a car which had been driven into protesters. Summer was participating in a march of solidarity against police brutality. They worked full-time at a veterinary hospital. Crowds gathered to remember Summer, lighting candles and carrying signs. Marilyn Cesares. Marilyn, a 22-year-old transgender Latina, was fatally stabbed and burned in Brawley, California on July 13. She was found dead in an abandoned building after first responders answered a fire call. Her aunt said, quote, "She loved to sing and dance and never bothered anyone." Marilyn could often be seen walking down Main Street with her head held up high. That's how she should be remembered.
We hope that as you continue to watch this service, you will come away with something new in your heart, new information, a shifted perspective, increased awareness. Please continue to learn and create opportunities to share with others so we can all work toward ending anti-transgender discrimination. We are sharing here just a few of many resources available where you can learn more. We also want to share one of the most important things you can do to be an ally, and that is acknowledging people for who they genuinely are. This means use the name and pronouns they use when they introduce themselves to you. If you don't know, just ask. This one gesture can make a world of difference for someone in the trans community. Here are other resources for learning more, and they are also listed in the description of this video with links for easy access. The Transgender Toolkit. This is a wonderful collection of trans-related resources. The Genderbread Person. A simple and clear resource for understanding the difference between biological sex, gender identity, and gender expression. The Human Rights Campaign, the largest LGBT advocacy group and political lobbying organization. GLAAD, a media monitoring organization founded by LGBTQ people in the media. The Trevor Project, a nonprofit organization focused on suicide prevention among LGBTQ youth. And the National Center for Transgender Equality, a nonprofit organization with the aim of advancing equality of trans people in the United States.
Dior Ova. Dior, a 32-year-old black transgender woman, also known as Tiffany Harris, was fatally stabbed in the Bronx, New York on July 26th. She was stabbed in the hallway of an apartment building and died 45 minutes later at the hospital. Dior enjoyed watching TV dramas such as Desperate Housewives and Sex and the City. She also loved luxury fashion brands and enjoyed a career as a personal shopper. Quaisha Hardy. Quaisha, a 32-year-old black transgender woman was fatally shot in Baton Rouge, Louisiana on July 27th. Her body was found in the street of a residential neighborhood. Waisha was a hairstylist who operated a popular salon in town and was dearly loved by her community. Friends and loved ones describe her as loyal, loving, always smiling, and truly one of a kind. Aja Raquel Roan Spears. Aja, a 32-year-old black transgender woman, was fatally stabbed in Portland, Oregon on July 28th. Aja was incredibly close to her family and enjoyed talking with them about cooking. She studied at the University of Nevada and was owner and founder of International Barbie, a Portland-based clothing brand. Neighbors and loved ones remember Aja as a vibrant personality. Key Sam. Key, a 24-year-old black transgender woman, was fatally shot in Lafayette, Louisiana on August 13th. She was found in critical condition after being shot at a hotel. Key was then transported to a hospital where she passed away the next day from her injuries. Friends remembered her, saying, "This can't be real. I will miss you. You know, you in my heart forever, and rest in love." Ariane Burnett. Ariane, a 37-year-old black transgender woman, was fatally shot in Independence, Missouri on September 19th. She was found in a grassy area near a road. Her family and friends held a vigil the day after her death, releasing balloons in her honor and sharing memories of her, saying, "Ariane was someone that you would have loved to have in your life. If you wanted to have a good day, you need to smile. Ariane was the person you wanted by your side." Mia Green. Mia, a 29-year-old black transgender woman, was fatally shot in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania on September 28th. Mia was found with a gunshot wound to the neck during a vehicle stop for a traffic violation. The driver was arrested and Mia was transported to a hospital where she passed away. Her friends and family shared how her smile was so perfect and so contagious, "She made me laugh." Another said that she was such a sweet spirit. Felicia Harris. Felicia, a 33-year-old black transgender woman, was fatally shot in a park in Augusta, Georgia on October 3rd. She was found suffering from a gunshot wound and was later pronounced dead. Felicia ran her own interior decorating company, having learned decorating from her grandmother. Friends will remember her laugh and her smile. Felicia had a bright sense of humor and was full of life. Brooklyn Deshauna. Brooklyn, a 20-year-old black transgender woman, was fatally shot in her apartment in Shreveport, Louisiana on October 7th. Brooklyn studied cosmetology and is remembered by her friends as genuinely a good person. A friend shared, "You didn't deserve this. I'm heartbroken." Friends and family are calling for justice. Sara Blackwood. Sara, a 39-year-old transgender woman, was fatally shot in Indianapolis, Indiana on October 11th. She was shot while walking home and later died at the hospital. Sara enjoyed playing video games and was a fan of the show My Little Pony. She leaves behind a partner of 8 years, Avery, who shared, "I loved her so much and I am grieving so deeply. She was my whole world." Michelle Ramos Varga. Michelle, a 33-year-old Puerto Rican transgender woman, was fatally shot in Saharan, Puerto Rico on September 30th. She was found on the side of the road, dead of multiple gunshot wounds. Michelle was studying to become a nurse. Trans rights activists spoke out on her behalf. "Her name is Michelle Ramos Vargas, and she was my age. Her passion, like mine, was helping other people. That's why she decided to study nursing." Angel Unique, a 25-year-old black transgender woman, was fatally shot in Memphis, Tennessee on October 25th. Angel was a licensed cosmetologist and remembered for being very funny, very nice to everyone she met, and such a bright person with a positive spirit. Angel was just 25 years old and looking forward to celebrating her 26th birthday in December.